Can you own the sky? I know it might sound ridiculous, but in real estate, this is a real question that developers and investors and even city planners have been debating for decades. You might think that when you buy a property, you're just getting the land, but what about the space above that land? Can you sell it? Can you build higher? And if you don't use it, can someone else? These are the kinds of questions that air rights deals with, and believe it or not, they can be worth millions. So what exactly are air rights? Well, imagine your property as a layer cake. The land is the bottom layer, your house or your building is another layer on top of it, but above that, that's where things get interesting. Air rights refer to the legal ability to use or sell the space above your property. In the past, people thought property ownership extended all the way up to the tippy top of the sky. Sounds great, right? But modern law has changed that. Today, the federal government controls the airspace above 500 feet in cities and above 360 feet in rural areas. And below that, that's where air rights come into play. So why does this matter? Well, if you own a small building in the middle of the city, zoning laws might allow for something much taller. And if you don't actually build higher, that extra vertical space still has value. Developers want that space, and they're willing to pay for it. And in places like New York and Chicago or Boston, air rights can be worth just as much, if not more, than the land itself. Every extra floor you can put on a building, that's kind of like creating more land that you can stack on top of itself again and again and again, depending on how high you can go, which all comes down to your air rights. In a lot of cities, developers will often buy rights from neighboring buildings so they can construct skyscrapers that would otherwise be too tall for the zoning laws. This is called a Transferable Development Right, or a TDR for short. And it's basically a way for property owners to cash in on the airspace they aren't using. Now, let's put this into perspective with some real-world examples. Hudson Yards, New York City, a $25 billion project that wouldn't have happened without air rights. Developers leased air rights from the Metropolitan Transportation Authority to build some of the tallest towers in Manhattan. And then we've got Millennium Park in Chicago, which was built over a railroad using air rights, transforming an ugly industrial site into one of the most famous public spaces in the US. And there's also Boston's Prudential Center, another case of air rights being used to develop on the top of existing infrastructure, turning a highway overpass into a major commercial district. So, can you sell air rights? Absolutely. In many cities, air rights can be bought, sold, and even traded just like physical property. But before you start making deals, there are some big limitations to know about. First off, zoning laws determine how much height is allowed in a given area. Even if you own the air rights, you still need government approval to develop them. Second is that some air rights can't be transferred, especially near airports where the FAA limits building heights for safety reasons. Air rights are only valuable if someone actually wants them. If there's no demand for taller buildings in your area, then those air rights might not be worth much at all. So how much are air rights actually worth? Well, that kind of depends. In New York City, air rights can sell for over $200 per square foot, sometimes more than the land itself. And in less densely populated areas, they might not be worth anything at all. The value of air rights really comes from the location, the zoning, and the demand. If there's a developer willing to pay for extra space, air rights can be an incredibly profitable asset. So, can you own the sky? Not exactly, but you can own the space above your property, and if you play your cards right, and if you happen to know of a developer who wants that space above your property, you might be able to sell it for a fortune in some cases. If you found this interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment, and click through the link below to go to the full article that talks all about air rights, why they're valuable, what they can be used for, and a lot more detail on this subject. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.